Yeah, I think it's so what I think it's you need to have one person who is more of the chaser of like the how do I say they need to be, someone needs to be the one who says, okay, this is what we focus on trying to learn next. That is ideally your CEO, CMO, the person responsible for marketing and go to market. That is ideally the most ideal person. On the other hand, for the execution, that is more of, especially with small startups, its execution is up to everybody. So it's like trying to do new things. I've worked with companies where it's like the whole company works on a learning basis. So everybody is trying to contribute to the learning goals of the company. So whether that is like, who is our ideal customer? What do they prefer? What do they not like? Where do we find them? That is something that every person in the company can have a role in. Or you set like a few learning goals and everyone for themselves tries to find out, how can I contribute to this? And it's really nice to just do like a bi-weekly meeting on what have we learned, or what is it next that we think we should learn to really master. Like if we could finally understand like what is the right channel to get our customers in, or what is the part of the packaging, the product that people really like, the features. What are the key features that we need to mention? If you can get that sharp in your next 2 weeks, that's super useful. So if you just set like a bi-weekly meeting with a few people to say, hey, this is what we want to learn, what can we do to learn this? That's that would be a great start, I think.
Awesome. Yeah, and maybe to have a short one, like a follow-up regarding same topic. Sorry, Juanse, what is maybe it's I think that sometimes it's hard to get this distinction between growth and kind of the sales team, the acquisition team. So kind of what I have noticed is that most of the times the sales team feels that they have to be kind of involved and in charge of growth, because you're trying, like in a sense, you're touching some points that are common. But like, how can you recommend to manage these two parts separate? Like one thing is sales, other thing is growth.
It's to me, sales most of the time is one of the most important parts of the company to be in the growth team, because they speak with the customer a lot, so they get a lot of feedback on it. So maybe most ideal might be to get them on board, maybe get them responsible for the growth questions, on like what will you guys be doing to help us in growth, and what will your learning goal be for this next sprint? Stuff like that. You can set it up like that. I think one of the toughest things for a learning environment is if some people feel like they do not have they are not in a safe place to be learning, and they need to hit goals. So reassure people that it's more important to learn something today and not hit your goal, but that you learn something on how all the upcoming months can be easier. So sometimes, like if a client says no, a potential customer, if they say no, it's much more interesting to really understand the no than trying to convince them to become a customer anyway. Because it's like one customer who buys it, or you're being able to convert your next 20. That's like the challenge.
Awesome.
Cool. Moving on. Who wants it?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Mark. So yeah, the question that I have is a bit weird, just because when I see this growth hacking mindset, and I think of Hit the Gym or startup, yes, we are open-minded. Yes, we value speed over perfection because we are content creators. It's all about it. It's all about that. But the issue, and I talked with Chris, like we talked about that yesterday, is that we are fairly bad with data, because most of the experiments that we do, we can find the data to track them, right? Or maybe we don't use the best strategy. So why do I ask that? Because we try to find what is our North Star metric. And as I told you before, we have an app where we teach people how to have a healthy lifestyle. And we saw that the only data that we have from the app is logins, right? Number of logins, number of access to the platform. So we thought, okay, so maybe that's the data that we need to track. But why? Because we realized that when people log in 6 times, usually that is the aha moment where they actually become valuable users. So that's what we thought, like, okay, let's track that and let's try to reach as many accesses as possible from our users. So that's the question that we have. It's kind of two ways. So the first one is regarding this, like, how do you feel about experiments that maybe can't be tracked, or maybe you have a hard time tracking, but you know that they add value because maybe you feel in your gut, right? It's more like a gut feeling, not like a data-driven feeling of doing the experiments that you want to do to grow. And the other one is regarding the North Star metric, because we want to have more value, more data. Unfortunately, we don't have it because we can't change the app. We didn't make it. It's a third party app. So how do you feel about maybe tracking with those metrics that maybe you don't have control over them, but you do need to track them to see if it's adding value to your company? So that's the question that I have.
Yeah. So data is always a tough question, and especially nowadays, since like iOS 14 came up, and next year Google has Google Sandbox, which is also means we as app developers are not able to track everything that we would like in apps. iOS 14 also pushed a lot of that out of the window. And I think we, as marketers and startup founders, have been spoiled a lot over the last years with how much data we can get and how much things we can track. And that's the idea of like, that's the only safety net that we can have. But to be honest, there have been so many companies before the era of data, before we were able to track everything. And there still will be a lot in the future, even when we can't track anymore. So it's the data is really nice, but it's also a nice to have. And I think it's the what I mentioned about hard data versus soft data. Soft data is most of the time much more important. When you have day and you have double the amount of logins in your app, but you don't know why, then the hard data was completely useless. You could not do anything with it. But if you would not have had the hard data, but you did have the soft data that said that on that day, a lot of people felt like, I don't know, it was a day after a big holiday and everybody ate too much, but they did have a good time, but now they want to hit the gym. Then that's super interesting. Without having the hard data, you do have the soft data, and that soft data is actually much more interesting most of the time. I think that you guys with your social community, you have a much bigger benefit versus companies that do not have the social aspect, but do have all the data that they could dream of. You should try to actively be asking people to think, to give feedback. I've had like the best experience with setting up VIP groups of gold members of a company, and that's like like a little Facebook group or a little Slack channel with just a few of my customers, and just asking them so much stuff. People love it. People love to be a VIP, and they love it when you build your app around them. And it's like you are going to like, they will love you for it. They will be your best ambassadors. And at the same time, they will give you feedback, soft data on every idea that you give them. So it's like you have a new ad that you want to run, then it's like they will tell you all the stuff that is good or bad about an ad. So when the ad does not perform well, you already know why. So yeah, it's give it a try, set it up, and I bet you will love it.
Yeah,
Hopefully that answers your questions a bit.
yeah, sure. I just want to say a last comment because regarding the things I said, yeah, maybe on Hit the Gym, we try to make up with maybe not tracking as good as we want to, with trying to make up with that with the relationship that we have with our users. So for example, yesterday I had a call, it was a 27-minute call with an user. I'm 100% sure that if I was, I don't know, a company, they wouldn't have talked to me for that long, but maybe because I'm the face of the product, because I record the product, maybe that's why they wanted to talk to me. So we try to do that. And also we have some people that are super good users and they enjoy talking to us, and they are the people that test our product before it comes out. So we try to test everything before dropping it out. So I just wanted to point that because I also have the same philosophy. Maybe we can track everything, but we can make up with that with having soft data, as you said in a moment. So we try to do that.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think that's indeed, that's a great example. That's a great example. Okay, I'm going to move on, and as you might see if you're peeking with me, I'm going to start skipping a few slides because I want to get to the good stuff in time. So let's see. Okay, so are you now? Nope, that's not. Which screen are you guys looking at? Yes, okay. So getting back to growth hacking. Growth hacking, basically, I think it's just a fancy term, but also a much shorter term to say it's a data-driven process focused on full funnel growth through rapid experiments. So there are multiple complex things in here. First of all, it's data-driven. We've discussed that it's about qualitative data mainly. Then it's a process. So we have this loop that we already had a peek at, and I'm going to discuss that in the next slides. We're going to have a process so that we systematically work towards having growth instead of just trying out a lot of random stuff. And then next up, we have full funnel. So full funnel meaning we are not just going to focus on getting new people in. We're also going to make sure that people convert, that they actually become customers, they stay happy customers, and that they become ambassadors to our brand. And lastly, we're going to do this through quick, rapid experiments. We want to just be on the tip of our toes and be able to run new experiments and try new things. Okay. So that's the right answer that any of you could have given in the chat, but this is way too complex. I've done way too long of just trying to get this definition, and even then this is too complicated as that's growth hacking. So let's jump in, and I think if we move on, we see the number 2 thing that I would love you guys to take with you from today. So this is all about the growth process. And the growth process consists of 3 steps. And the first step is that pirate funnel that we've been talking about. It's about finding your bottleneck. And finding your bottleneck means that we use this pirate funnel. Please feel free to Google pirate funnel canvas. You will find my blog where I go all in depth on even just this one little thing in this whole document. So feel free to Google pirate funnel canvas. The pirate funnel exists of 6 steps. Does any one of you have an idea why we call it the pirate funnel?
Because it says R.
R. R. Sure, Camilo wanted to say it as well, but you were just too fast. Nice. So Okay, it's the R, and this is like I think the best thing ever. I love good pun. You should have seen that by now if you've checked out like some of the other slides that is in there. So it splits your company up in 6 steps, 6 chronological steps, and these 6 steps show the steps of how people go from not even knowing you to getting aware of your company, going to your website, being activated, so going to the first step. I think the next slide makes it even easier. So it's like coming to your website, then showing like the first real step. So this the exact definition of how you measure it is different for each company. So you have to decide that for your own. So this is like the activation step, how many people actually get in, and then how many people buy from you or how many people come back. These 2 steps based on your business model might be different. So for a freemium, it might make more sense that your first challenge is when people are activated, that they stay activated before they buy. Or your question is, I first need people to buy and then I need them to come back to buy more often. And the last step is people actually becoming ambassadors. So to split this step up, you want to add numbers to every step. And if you can't find the exact numbers, that's fine. You can also just use gut feeling or estimates to just fill in these numbers roughly. And to answer the question that was asked before, for most pre-seed companies, startups, anything, if you don't have the product market fit yet, just focus on awareness or acquisition. Those are your first questions, like, are we even able to get people's attention? And if we are able to get their attention, then we'll see later on if we are able to convert them. Julian.
Yes, you have some advice to control all these data because just an example, every step have a different database, you know, for awareness. I don't know, I'm using LinkedIn and Google Analytics, but in activation, I have my own database of active clients. And how's the best way to mix all these databases to make it dynamic, you know, because if I make it manual, it's going to be longer and I will not see the difference in every experiment.
Yeah, so that's a tough one. There is no solution to it. There is no tool that combines these different data sets easily and cheaply. So it's there are options and options that are easy, but they are damn expensive. You have Supermetrics, they are very expensive. There are some Google Sheets add-ons that you can use, but there are none that are really good at this. But the good thing is that this is only like a question that you will need to do, that you need to answer like once in 2 months to just pick your focus. And then only then you're going to look at like just on an experiment level, are we getting better at just awareness to acquisition? That's the way you answer the question. So then you don't need to find all the numbers every time, but you just focus on the one number that you want to influence. So I'm going to skip this next part. This is about how you can calculate your average customer lifetime value, but you can look it up later on in these slides. But basically what you want to do is you want to find out of all these different metrics, you want to see like, okay, where am I losing the biggest percentage of people? In startup cases, most of the time it will just be at the top where you have to focus first. But later on it will move down and you will see maybe you are losing half of the people halfway through, for example. Okay, I'm going to move on a bit to make sure that I get everything covered, especially for the process. So now that you have found where in your pirate funnel your bottleneck is, your next question is going to be, okay, so that is now what I'm going to be focusing on with the company. So for the upcoming time, for the next 1 to 3 months, or you guys are startups, you can do this faster. So for the next 2 weeks to 2 months, you will have this one metric that matters, that is going to be your one focus that you are trying to improve. So if your acquisition game is really weak, that should be your focus for the next 2 to 4 weeks, 2 months maybe, and you are going to run all of these experiments to just try and improve this one metric that matters. And this is then what the process looks like. So this is, in the beginning, you have this pirate funnel. You found your one metric that matters. So you're now here. Then step 2 is, why is this a problem? So this is already where this soft data, the qualitative feedback is coming in. The question is, okay, people are not clicking on our ads. Why? And really try to do your best to find this. It's always awkward or hard maybe to ask, to reach out to people and get some feedback. But most people are really glad to help. So if you have found your bottleneck, you now understand your users, then now the question is, okay, great. Now we need to have a brainstorm, gather a lot of ideas. Later on, I hope to get to the point, to the slide where I will show you guys how to come up with all of the best ideas. But just gather all of the different ideas, collect as many as you can. For now, it's just about quantity, as many ideas as you can. Then you will be scoring all of those different ideas. And with those ideas, you can have like a score for how impactful will it be, how confident are we that this will be working, and how easy is it to execute. So that is your ICE score. I'm wondering why I do not have a slide on this, but I really should have had. But this is like you give a score on a scale of 1 to 5 for each of those 3, the impact, confidence, and the ease, and combined, every of your ideas gets a score, a total score. And you just start to work on the score, the idea with the highest score. You outline, how am I going to do this small and quickly? And then you execute it. Then the last step is studying the outcome. So what did we learn from this? What are people doing about this? What is the impact that we had? Did we actually improve our one metric that matters? If it did not, you go back to your next idea with the highest score. If it didn't, or if you did impact your one metric that matters, and you found a big improvement, that's great. Now you can move one step down in your pirate funnel. And the question is, okay, great. Now we are able to acquire people. Next up is, how are we going to activate people, for example. So that is the growth hacker process. And this is kind of what it looks like.